Hello students, welcome to my channel MNR Digital Classes. This is the second lecture on acoustics. In this part, we are going to discuss about the derivation of Saban's law for reverberation. The content of this lecture is extracted from Engineering Physics by G. Aruldas, that is the first edition published by Printers Hall India, and some part of this lecture is also extracted from Waves and Oscillations by Bridgelar and Subramaniam, second edition published by Vikas Publications. The study of acoustics in rooms and concert halls has been started in about 1895 from the pioneer work of Professor Wallace Clement Sabine, 1868 to 1919, a professor of physics at Harvard University. The Fogart Museum Hall of Harvard University, USA, when it was built, was found to be so defective acoustically. The lectures given in this hall were not intelligible to the audience. So, to find the lapses in the acoustics of this building, Professor Wallace Clement Sabine was consulted, and he was the first person who scientifically tackled the problems of satisfactory speech and music in a hall or auditorium. Today, it is possible for architects to meet the exacting acoustical specifications with the work done by Sabine over 2 decades. In order to understand the architectural and acoustical features of the buildings, Sabine selected several remarkable structures existed at that time in Europe and America. Among them, the 6 famous architectural buildings are the Dome of St. Paul's Cathedral in London, the vases of Salades Caryatides in the Louvre Museum, Paris, the Statuary Hall in the capital of Washington, St. John Lateran in Rome, the Year of Dionysus at Syracuse, Italy, the Cathedral of Girgenti in Italy. These are the 6 buildings selected by Sabine for the study of the architectural and acoustical features. Let us have a look of these buildings. The first one, the Dome of St. Paul's Cathedral, London. This is the building, and inside the dome, which has remarkable acoustics. Second one, the vases of Salades Caryatides in Louvre Museum, Paris. This is the structure, acoustical structure, and the interior of the museum. The third one, the Statuary Hall in the capital of Washington. This has the dome, which has the acoustical properties. The St. John Lateran in Rome. This is one of the beautiful structures in terms of acoustics. The Year of Dionysus at Syracuse in Italy. This is the natural acoustical structure. The last one is the Cathedral of Girgenti, Italy. This is another remarkable acoustical building which was selected by Sabine for his study. The discussions on the acoustical features of these structures were published as an very interesting article on the Whispering Galleries by Sabine. The complete work of Sabine, which is made on acoustics for more than 2 decades, was published as a collected volume, the collected papers on acoustics. The work on the Whispering Galleries inspired Sir C.V. Raman to publish a similar article on the acoustical curiosities present in India at that time. The concept was already we discussed in the previous lecture. The below link gives the complete work, the volume containing the complete work of W.C. Sabine, that is the collected papers on acoustics. On the basis of his observations over a decade, Sabine proposed an empirical formula on empirical basis, which is the backbone of present day acoustics. According to Sabine, the reverberation time of a hall is directly proportional to the size of the auditorium, that is the volume of the auditorium, inversely proportional to nature of the observing materials on the walls, ceilings and flooring, that is the effective absorption coefficient of the materials, and inversely proportional to area of the observing surfaces. And also it depends on the velocity of the sound and hence the wavelength of the sound waves. So for a given sound wave, velocity or the wavelength is constant in a given hall. So reverberation time depends directly on the size of the auditorium, inversely proportional to the absorption coefficient of the material, inversely proportional to area of the observing surfaces. If V is the volume of the enclosure, that is the auditorium, A is the effective absorption power, that is the product of absorption coefficient and total surface area of all the surfaces, then we can write the reverberation time as T is equal to a constant K into V divided by A, where V is the volume, A is effective absorption power of the surfaces. The value of K depends on the velocity or wavelength of the sound waves. This empirical formula is called as Sabine's law. The relation was derived by W.S. Franklin in 1903 and by Giger in 1911 and many others. Sabine, on empirical basis, gave the reverberation formula for a hall or an auditorium to express the rise and fall of sound intensity by considering the following assumptions. The enclosure is big one, so that the sound energy is uniformly distributed in all directions from the source. There is no interference between the sound waves, hence no formation of standing waves. The absorption coefficient is independent of sound intensity. The rate of emission of sound energy from the source is constant. The absorption of sound energy by the air inside the hall is negligible. These are the assumptions on the basis of which Sabine's law was derived. Let epsilon be the energy density of the sound wave, which is distributed uniformly throughout the hall of volume V. Then the sound energy density epsilon is given by, we know that energy density is total sound energy divided by volume, that is E divided by V, where V is the volume of the hall, E is energy, total sound energy. So the sound energy E is equal to epsilon times V. Therefore, the rate at which this sound energy grows up in the hall is given by dE by dt is equal to d by dt of epsilon V, that is energy density into volume. So since volume of the hall is constant, take it outside, we get the rate of growth of sound energy in the hall is equal to V into d epsilon by dt. Call this as equation 1. Let A be the effective absorbing power, that is the product of total surface area S and mean absorption coefficient alpha of all the surface material in the hall. By using statistical methods, Jigar in 1911 showed that the maximum power dissipated in the hall is given by energy density into velocity by 4 into effective absorbing power. Here V is the velocity of sound, E epsilon is the energy density, and A is effective absorbing power. So the rate at which the sound energy is absorbed by the various surfaces is given by epsilon V by 4 into A. Call this as equation 2. Since the rate of emission of sound energy from the source is assumed to be constant, we can write the relation. The rate of emission of sound energy is equal to the rate of growth of sound energy plus the rate of absorption of sound energy. The rate at which the energy emitted by the source of sound is equal to the rate at which energy grows up inside the hall plus the rate at which energy gets absorbed inside the hall. Now, using equations 1 and 2, we get the rate of emission of sound energy is equal to rate of growth is given by the equation 1, V into d epsilon by dt plus EV by epsilon E by 4 into A, the rate of absorption of sound energy in the hall. Call this as equation 3. We already know the definition of reverberation time. It is the time interval for which the sound persists in the hall even after the source stops emitting the sound. That is, reverberation time is counted from the time at which the sound stops producing the sound. So, to evaluate the reverberation time, equation 3 must be equated to 0. That is, when the source ceases to producing the sound, the rate of emission of sound energy must be equal to 0. So, to find the reverberation time, this equation 3 must be equated to 0. That is, V into d epsilon by dt plus epsilon V by 4 into A is equal to 0, or this implies V into d epsilon by dt is equal to minus epsilon V by 4 into A. So rearranging the terms, d epsilon by epsilon is equal to minus VA by 4 capital V. Small v represents the velocity of sound, capital V represents volume of the auditorium, into dt is equal to dt. Call this as equation 4. Now, integrating this equation 4, we get now E naught, epsilon naught represents the initial energy density of the sound. Epsilon represents the energy density after a time interval of t seconds. So, applying the limits at time t is equal to 0, energy density is equal to epsilon naught. At time t seconds, energy density is E. So, integrating both sides, we get the integration of 1 over epsilon is ln epsilon minus ln epsilon naught. Substituting the limits, we get VA minus VA by 4 capital V into t minus 0. So we know that from the laws of logarithms, log A minus log B is equal to log of A by B, that is ln epsilon by epsilon naught is equal to minus B A by 4 capital B into T. This implies rearrange the terms for time. T is equal to minus 4 uppercase V divided by V in the lower case into A ln of epsilon divided by epsilon naught. Call this as the equation 5. We already know the definition of reverberation time. It is the time interval during which the intensity of sound falls to 10 to the power of minus 6 times its initial value. That is, when we take T is equal to reverberation time T60, the ratio of intensity I by I naught, which is equal to ratio of the energy densities epsilon by epsilon naught, is equal to 10 to the power of minus 6. This is the definition of reverberation time, standard reverberation time. So substituting this value in equation 5, we get reverberation time T60 is equal to minus 4 V in the uppercase divided by V in the lower case into A ln of 10 to the power of minus 6. So this is equal to log of A to the power of M can be written as M log A. So minus power minus 6 can be written as minus of minus plus 4 into 6 into converting natural logarithm into common logarithms. We get 4 into 6 into 2.3026 into V by small v into A. This comes out to be equal to 55.26 into V divided by V small v into A. Taking the velocity of sound at room temperature, say at approximately 20 degrees Celsius, as equal to 345 meters per second. We know that at room 0 degrees Celsius, velocity of sound is 332.5 meters per second, and for every 1 degree rise in temperature, the velocity increases approximately by 0.61 meters per second. So the velocity of sound at a temperature of about 20 degrees Celsius comes out to be 345 meters per second. So substituting this value, we get T60 is equal to 55.26 into V uppercase divided by small v 345 meters per second into A, or substituting and simplifying, we get T60 is equal to reverberation time is 1 by 0.16 into capital B divided by A. This is the Sabin's formula for reverberation time, which is in fairly good agreement with the experimental values. The experimental observations also show that the reverberation time obtained by Sabin's formula is incorrect for the values of absorption coefficient greater than 0.2. That is because, suppose if we take a dead room for which the absorption coefficient is equal to 1. So the effective absorbing power A is simply equal to absorption coefficient. So the reverberation time comes out to be 0.16 B divided by alpha. So it means that the reverberation time is finite even for a dead room. But the experimental observation shows that for a dead room, reverberation time is very large. I mean, it is almost 0. So there is a discrepancy in the formula and experimental observations. C.F. Eyring in 1930 and others have showed that Sabin's formula is applicable only for the live rooms, that is, rooms for which the reverberation time is very large and the walls and other materials have very small effective absorption coefficient, that is, absorption coefficient greater than 0.2. This formula cannot be satisfactorily applied for dead rooms. This is one of the major limitations of Sabin's formula. The overall average reverberation time does not tell the whole story of the acoustics of buildings. The variation of reverberation time with the frequency is also important. This graph represents the variation of reverberation time with frequency. We have the graphs for three acoustical structures. One is Royal Albert Hall, London, Kennedy Center, Washington, and Symphony Hall, Boston. Now, from these figures and this graph, it is clear that as the frequency increases, the reverberation time falls down. Means for low frequencies, reverberation time is longer. As the frequency increases, reverberation time gradually falls down. Here we have a list of auditoriums which are considered to be the most outstanding structures in the world. And here we are representing how the reverberation time varies with frequencies. From this table, it is clear that the reverberation time is significantly longer at low frequencies. As the frequency increases, the reverberation time gradually falls down. Here, the first column represents the delay time between the direct sound and the first reflected sound. This factor T1 is very, very essential in getting the presence or intimacy as perceived by the listener. This we are going to discuss in the next lecture. Thank you.